Alright, here goes nothing. So I'm at a fairly busy Bishop Pass trailhead. I get to start kind of high here, but I'm going to get started and I'll explain on the way. Okay, so now that I've made a little bit of progress, should be climbing through 10,000 feet. The goal today is North Palisade, which is not a name you hear very often outside of climbing circles. Fourth tallest mountain in California. The Palisades are a notoriously craggy section of peaks on the eastern boundary of Kings Canyon. And the easiest route to the top is Class 4, as approached from the west. So I have to climb over one pass and then climb over another pass before I can set up camp and then hopefully make a run at the top in the morning. North Palisade rounds out what you could consider to be the big three mountains of the Sierra Nevada, alongside Mount Whitney and Mount Williamson. I've been thinking of them as three siblings, Whitney being kind of the perfect, popular older sister, loved by all. Mount Williamson is kind of the forgotten ginger middle child. He's kind of a jerk, but he's not too bad. North Palisade is kind of the deformed monster child that sits in the basement, eats fish bones, and hisses at you when you come down. So we'll have to see if that one's true. Made it up to Bishop Pass. A little bit of a slog going up the switchbacks. It'll flatten out here, but this is also where I go off-road, so hopefully I can get a decently flat path until I can get to the next pass. That is the road ahead. Starting to see the first glimpses of the Palisades. The main trail was pretty busy, but it's getting pretty quiet out here. Every time I come through the High Sierra, I'm reminded that it's kind of a cold, lifeless place. Granted, as far as the eye can see, it's beautiful, but in a aggressive, dramatic type of way. Made it here to Thunderbolt Pass. Getting up here was a navigational nightmare. Lots of little paths that led to nowhere. Had to go back down and back up. Took my pace to an absolute crawl. I don't know if that's going to bode well for tomorrow, especially if there's weather in the forecast. But we'll see. I'll descend a little bit, find a suitable campsite, and then reevaluate in the morning. So I set up camp, then had to travel a demoralizingly long ways to get water, but I got plenty for I think all or most of tomorrow. I'm going to eat dinner, and then I think I'm just going to turn in for the night. It's starting to get dark. Sunset's beautiful, but we'll see what the morning brings. It's morning, right before sunrise. I wanted a little bit of light so I could navigate a little bit easier. So visibility is decent, not a lot of clouds. Looks decent for the weather, at least for the first part of the day. So I'm gonna give it a try. The white cliffs mark the spot. So from here, I just start going up. Moving along pretty nicely here. Route finding is about to become pretty important, so I'm gonna have to keep my eyes peeled. It's beautiful up here, starting to actually feel really high. Alright, I found the ledges. It's pretty clear based on the pictures I have. I've been dreading this part for a while. But it doesn't look nearly as bad as the pictures show, so I'll make a little bit progress at a time, not do anything that feels particularly unsafe, and hopefully be in the final chute shortly. Alright, here goes nothing. Yep, I made it. It was moderately scary, but actually kind of cool. By all accounts, that's the crux of the route. So I got about 1,000 vertical feet to go. I imagine it's going to be a lot of scrambling, but maybe less exposure. I'll check in a little bit later. Climbed up into the Palisade Bowl. Quick shot up from the summit. I thought it was going to get a little bit easier after the ledges, but some of those chalk stones really push the boundaries of what Class 4 can be. Summit is right up there. This white streak is what you want to see. Yeah, North Palisade. It's an intense one. Seems like every time you think it's going to get a little bit better, you get hit with more challenges. The summit block itself was a whole different animal. It seemed like there were so many different ways. You just had to pick one that worked. I'm not going to linger here too long. I know there's rain in the forecast, so I want to get as far down on the mountain as I can. So I'll give more commentary a little bit later on. So I came in on the original LeConte ledges, but there's an alternate set of ledges that I see referenced quite a bit. They start right about here, so I'm going to at least check it out, see how it compares. After finishing off these ledges, I can confidently say that it's the easiest way up and down the mountain. Exposure is a little bit less, although it is a little bit more Class 4 climbing-y. But the biggest thing, I think, is just being able to bypass the chalk stones. Those are daunting. Like, even if you had ropes, they would be difficult. So you have to deal with more kind of rocky slope, but I think at the end of the day, come up to about 13,800 feet and cross the ledges right here. I'm back down to a safe spot, away from all the climbing, just a mile or so to camp. Actually, by the time you reach the main chute, it's actually quite a short ways to get to the summit. The vast majority of the distance is in the approach. I didn't really account for how much time I was going to spend above 12,000 feet. If you asked me at 2 a.m. with a massive altitude headache if I was going to make the summit today, I probably would have told you no. But one step in front of the other, eventually you get there. So next stop, camp, and then I'll continue out of here. Back here at camp, making pretty good time. It was super hot before the clouds rolled in. A little bit of rain wouldn't hurt, but I wouldn't want to see any lightning. Nobody else out here in this side of the park today. I think I was the only summiter. I mean, it is what it is. It was quiet up there. There's a lot of rockfall danger, so maybe it's better that way. But I'm gonna have some lunch, pack up my camp, and then try and get back onto the main trail. So coming up here back on Bishop Pass, let me tell you, the traverse over from Thunderbolt Pass is not particularly fun. Up, down, hopping over boulders. Not to mention I got all kinds of weather, from scorching heat to landing storms. So I'm just happy to be back on the trail again. I'm gonna try not to stop until I get to the car, ready to be out of here. Now back to the parking lot. A little bit later than I had initially wanted. It rained on me almost the entire time, kind of hard. Lightning too, not particularly fun. Really, I'm just happy to be back. So relieved to have this one over with. Thinking of North Palisade, I always had it pictured as this sadistic nightmare mountain, which in some ways is true. The approach really sucks, the climbing's pretty serious, you definitely can't be afraid of heights. But it actually is a really interesting dynamic climb. It would be a good option for a lot of groups, maybe not a lot, but some of intermediate to advanced climbers. So after several months of planning this one, I'm just happy to have it done with. It's a great weight off my shoulders, and I will be back around for another climb at some point. Signing off. Feels a lot like wandering through Mordor. In fact, I could have sworn there was a naked man following me around, rambling some nonsense about Precious based on the novel Pushed by Sapphire. And I'm not here to ask questions, I'm here to climb.